Hello, it's Gabby here for you. Before we jump onto this week's podcast, I just want to let you know about 2 ways that you can work with me. First of all, I do one-to-one coaching and I do that via Zoom, so we can jump on a Zoom call at a time to suit you. The second thing I've got for you is an online coaching course that's 12 modules that you can download straight away now. There will be a link somewhere around these podcast notes. And this is the course that I've designed, and it's got everything in it that I wish I'd have known when I finished cancer treatment and I was lost. So you can download that course now and you can start working towards making this your happiest and healthiest year ever. I'd love to hear from you. Let me know what you think. Take care. Bye-bye. Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Confidence After Cancer. And if you've ever judged yourself for being too tired or not doing enough after cancer treatment has finished, this episode is for you. I really want to talk about the misconception and maybe the myth that post-cancer fatigue is laziness. And I'd like to help you understand the truth about recovery, energy and healing. That's the topic I'm going to talk about today, and I'm hoping it's going to help you. And so really, I remember when I was first diagnosed and I was speaking to my breast cancer nurse, and she told me, what my treatment plan was going to be. I was going to have chemotherapy, then I was going to have surgery, then radiotherapy, possibly reconstruction after that. And she said to me, when your treatment is all finished, when you come to the end of this journey, please allow yourself at least 12 months after the treatment finishes before you get your energy back. And I remember when she told me that, first of all, I was quite shocked. And then I was quite determined that it wasn't going to take me that long. I thought, she's used to dealing with old sick people. She's not used to dealing with somebody like me. I'm not going to take that long. And in actual fact, it probably took me 2 to 3 years to really get my energy back. And I made some mistakes and I've learned a lot along the way. And that's really why I share everything that I've learned on my podcast. And I was really upset today to see on social media, it was a friend of a friend who was saying she had finished her chemotherapy 2 years ago and she's hit a bit of a wall really, because she felt like she was getting better, and then all of a sudden her energy has dipped again, and she has been quite shocked by that. But I think that's completely normal, and we're going to talk about that today. So first of all, this myth of laziness and the pressure that there can be to bounce back quickly after you finish your cancer treatment. And sometimes that pressure comes from yourself, from impatience, like it was with me, from frustration of not being the person that you used to be. But also there's a lot of pressure around you, and sometimes that can be good pressure, if you like, in the people that love you, the people that care for you. They just want you to be back to the person that you were before. And as much as they care for you and love you, you can feel that pressure that everyone doesn't want you to be the old person again, especially if you get the all clear. They want you to be, that's great, bounce back to the person that you were. But I didn't feel like that. I felt so bereft. And I've talked before about the fact that, in the UK, we have the NHS, which is absolutely wonderful at getting you through a crisis, getting you through surgery, getting through all the cancer treatment. But actually, at the end of that, the aftercare for me was sadly lacking. And so I really found that pressure to bounce back really difficult. And also, if you think about society, how it views cancer survivors, and I sometimes would feel quite sad and quite disconnected from other people when I'd see adverts for instance, there'd be cancer survivors doing a charity run, and they'd be running around a park in pink tutus, all looking amazing. All of them, their hair had grown back beautifully and they all look great and full of energy. My hair never grew back properly, and my energy took a long time to come back. So for quite a while I felt there's something wrong with me, and then I realized we're all on our own journey. We all have different experiences, and there's no right and there's no wrong. And that pressure, really, it comes from outside of you. And this is something, the big lesson that I've learned is learning to trust myself, trust my own feelings, and trust that I know best what's best for me. And so quite often I hear survivors internalizing guilt for needing rest. And I'm not saying this is just a woman thing, but it is more common in women who, particularly if they are women or they are managers at work or they are the carers for somebody in their family, they are a homemaker, for instance. They are used to being the one who fixes everything, who deals with everything. And when they really need to rest and not do those things anymore, they feel a lot of guilt for letting other people down. And you have to remind yourself that you're not letting anybody down by replenishing your own energy. As what do they say? You can't pour from an empty cup. And I know that's such a cliche. And the other one is, you think about when you go on an airline, when you're going, an aircraft, when you're going on holiday, and they do the safety talk at the beginning, and they always say, put your own oxygen mask on first. And they say that for a reason, because you can't help anybody else unless you are in a good place yourself. So again, these are sayings to remind you that there's nothing wrong with needing rest, and it's nothing to feel guilty about. And this is not laziness, it's biology, okay? And there is a lot of medical evidence now building about this. And I've got a quote here that post-cancer fatigue affects up to 70% of survivors. It's a real physical condition. So if you're feeling like this, please don't think there's anything wrong with you. It is so common. And maybe something people don't talk about a lot because they do feel guilty. I did. I felt like everyone else is looking at me, and my medics were amazing. They've put me back together. They're giving me this amazing care. Why do I feel so drained? Why do I feel like this? But think about what healing really looks like. And we have to heal after cancer treatment physically, mentally, and emotionally. Quite often the shock, even of just the diagnosis, can absolutely be like a bomb going off in your life. So your emotions, everything is all over the place. And so your energy is being used behind the scenes to cope with all that mental processing that you've got to do, let alone if you are going through surgery or you're going through chemotherapy, and what that does, because it absolutely just devastates your body. It devastates your immune function. And there is so much going on. And yet, we all try and put on a brave face and get through it because we all want to survive. And when you get that all clear, that's sometimes people do sometimes feel like, yeah, great, I'm ready to move on. But for so many people that I talk to, they are so emotionally exhausted from the trauma, the stress, and the change. They don't feel like celebrating. Okay, so I want you to think about what healing really looks like. And if you think about a simple thing, like if you were to cut your finger, not too deeply, just like a minor cut you might do sometimes if you're cutting some vegetables or whatever in the kitchen. Oh, and you cut your finger and it starts to bleed. As long as you keep that finger clean, think about what happens. Your body knows what to do. It sends all the right things to your finger to start producing scar tissue, and it will heal over in time. So your body knows how to repair itself. Your body, your cells in your body are constantly renewing. They're dying, they're being replaced by new cells. That's what happens in a normal, healthy person. And it's happening to you as well after cancer treatment. Probably got a bit more work to do, but you need to rest. And my affirmation that I say, and I talk about affirmations a lot because I learned this from Louise Hay, the way that we talk to ourselves. So a little affirmation you could say to yourself is, your body is doing sacred, invisible work. Trust it and go with that. That is work. That is not you being lazy. If you are just resting to let your body do what it needs to do, that's not laziness. Okay, and I want to talk about self-talk because this has been key for me, one of the things that I've had to learn. And thinking about yourself, particularly if you feel guilty or you're struggling with feeling lazy, think about alternatives to saying the words, I'm lazy. How about saying to yourself, when you are resting, I am honouring my body. How about saying to yourself, I am listening to what I need. So give yourself permission, give yourself grace to rest. And I always say to people who struggle with this concept, you would never talk to your best friend like this. If your best friend told you, actually, I'm feeling exhausted and I don't want to get out of bed today, you would never give them a hard time about that. But we sometimes give ourselves such a hard time for exactly the same thing. And the other thing that I would suggest to you, the way you think about healing and looking after yourself and nurturing yourself, is if you were looking after a sick child, how would you treat them? Well, you might wrap them up in a blanket. You might give them some nourishing soup to read. You might read them a story. You might give them a nice warm bath. All those things. How about treating yourself like that when you need it, when you are recovering? Treat yourself like you would a sick child. Not forever, but just while you get through this process. Okay, so some practical tips I've got for you to support your energy and recovery. And as always, I'm not saying this is what you must do. I've got some suggestions for you. You can pick and choose. Some of these might work for you, some might not, and that's fine. So what's really helped me is to get a gentle morning routine. So a morning check-in with yourself, thinking about, if you can, not looking at your phone straight away in the morning, But checking in with yourself, how are you feeling? Talking to yourself in a positive way. I really find it helpful to listen to things on YouTube. Positive morning affirmations help me, put me in a positive mood. Some gentle stretching first thing in the morning just to get your body out of bed and get it used to moving. And the other thing, and I've talked about this before, is journaling. Sometimes just writing down what you're thinking first thing in the morning, just getting those words onto paper. Nobody else is going to read it, only you. Sometimes that stream of consciousness of just getting it out exactly how you're feeling can really help you. Another thing that might help you is energy tracking. What does that mean? It means noticing the patterns of when you've got high energy and low energy, and noticing these patterns without judgment, not making yourself wrong. So I know first thing in the morning is not when I'm at my most energetic. So I build my routine around that now. So first thing in the morning, I know I've got my clothes ready the night before. So I get up in the morning. I don't have to decide what I'm going to wear. I already know my clothes are out. If I'm planning to do exercise that morning, my exercise clothes are out. They're there. Things for the morning, for my drink, what I'm going to eat in the morning is already on the side in the kitchen for when I come down. So I don't have to think too much in the morning because that's not when I'm at my best. For me, I know my patterns of my most energetic is mid-afternoon. And so when I want to do some creative work or when I want to record a podcast, I try and do that mid-afternoon because that's when I feel good about it. That's when I've got my energy. Another practical tool to support your energy, and this is something I've really had to learn, is about setting boundaries. Learning to say no without guilt. And it is, again, if you are that capable person who's always been the one who fixes things and you're always doing things for other people, just learning to say no without guilt. And initially this might feel difficult, and it's like any new habit, the more you do it, the easier it gets. But try if you can. If this is something you struggle with, before you say yes to anything, is just taking a pause, take a beat, take a minute to think before you rush in and say, yes, I can do that. Just think, can I actually do that? Or if I want to decline something, if I don't want to go to that commitment, if I don't want to pick up that piece of work, whatever it is you want to say no to, say no without guilt and know that you're doing it for the best for you and for the other person. Because if you say yes too much, as I used to do, you can end up full of resentment and exhausted because you're just doing too much. The other practical thing you can do for yourself that's really going to help you in this time is nutrition and hydration basics for energy support. And I talk all the time about drinking enough water, and there's a good reason for that because we all need that to support good health. Nutrition, I am pleased to say, good nutrition and is becoming more and more acceptable and more talked about nowadays. And there's a big movement, I think, at the minute for people not to eat so much processed food, because processed food might fill you up, might give you the calories that you need, but it's not going to give you the energy. So try if you can to eat food that's close to its natural state as possible. Try not to eat processed foods every single meal. That's not supporting your recovery. I'm not saying you should be, 100% perfect all the time, because I'm not. But most of the time, if you are eating nutritious food, you are supporting your recovery. One of the things that I absolutely loved, particularly when I had low energy, was nourishing soups, a broth or vegetable soup or chicken broth. All those things are very nurturing, very nourishing and full of goodness. And you can make soups with anything, the same as you can with juices. If you like your juices, whatever you've got around in your cupboard, use those things, but try and use fresh, natural ingredients because it will really help your energy. So if you're struggling with anything to do with your confidence, there will be a link somewhere around these podcast notes of how you can download my Confidence Kickstart. Or if you are struggling with returning to work, there will be a link for that as well. I've got a return to work checklist, and I'm always available to help with if you need more support in any of those areas. So I'd really like you to think about, where have you judged yourself for needing rest? Have you ever made yourself wrong for needing rest? Have you been quite harsh with yourself? And how can you show yourself more compassion this week? So you could write that down in your journal or just think about it. Or if you want to, just share it with me. I'd love to hear from you. But I'd really like to reassure you, you are not behind. You are where you need to be in your healing journey. You are not lazy. You are healing, and that takes time. So if this spoke to you, I'd really like you to share this episode with somebody who needs to hear it. Okay, and get in touch with me if I can help you with anything. If you're feeling overwhelmed or you just need to ask me a question, Thank you so much for joining me on Confidence After Cancer. You are stronger than you think, and you are not alone. And as always, I would urge you to stay safe, stay sane. Thank you so much for listening. It means the world to me. Thank you, Mama.